Ladies and gentlemen, I have made a lot of different types of content as it pertains to chess. One thing that is quite rare on this channel is for hundreds of you to write in my comment section to review a match as it happens live. And that is exactly what I will be doing in today's video. I will be covering two games in a mini match played between jynxzi and stableronaldo. In case you don't know who either of these gentlemen are, they are massive video game streamers. I think combined they have over 25 or 30 million followers. They are really, really big and really, really good at what they do. They were live streaming recently and they went toe-to-toe in 10 different games. And one of those games was chess. And these were some pretty incredible games. So I will be breaking these down. I will be doing my usual work as an educational content creator, giving a little bit of advice, educating, entertaining you along the way. And, I'm going to try not to tease for a lot of these moves because I read that stableronaldo is 6'5", and I would prefer not to get, stomped on. I'm also a little bit sick, in case you can't tell. Have a little bit of a flu right now, and I'm not sure these games made it any better. So here we go. All right. What happens when two incredibly diverse video game creators battle in chess? Well, I knew it was off to a bad start, but only for Mr. Ronaldo, because in this position, he asked his opponent, "Hey, can you explain which of the pieces I have to get?" So with Black in the first game, he asked jynxzi, he asked him, "Which of the pieces do I have to get?" And jynxzi was like, "You got to get the king." Can you imagine going into a chess game and not actually knowing anything? Honestly, what you're about to witness is quite impressive given that that was the prerequisite knowledge. jynxzi clearly had the edge and a little bit more experience. By the way, kind of crazy, they played a real opening. I literally just made a YouTube short about this opening, and I explained that sometimes people lose their queen. Well, you're about to see exactly that. E3, E5, and not moving the dark squared bishop out of the way. jynxzi here captures this pawn. Ronaldo, he takes back. I don't know if I'm supposed to call him Ron or Ronaldo. I guess I'll call him Ron for short. I'm not sure. Queen's gone. Queen's absolutely gone. So I'm thinking, all right, jynxzi's going to win the chess. There's not going to be much to cover. Hardly. No. So he does take the queen. Ron doesn't even take it back. He brings the king forward to D7. So we're still not developing the knights or the bishops. Obviously, you don't want to lose the queen very early in a chess game. White goes queen takes D5 check. Ron thinks it's mate. He's asking, because they're on a voice call as well. He's like, is it mate? He finds the escape move. jynxzi here takes this pawn. He goes here, still not taking the bishop. Bishop to B5 check is the move that jynxzi opts for. He can also take on C7 here, defended by the bishop. And if you take, the king would move, and then you would take on C8. He goes check, knight blocks. At this point, jynxzi understands he is trying to mate the king. Like, the king is out here, and what's even worse is the king is out here. So after knight C3, king E6, jynxzi gives a million more checks, and we land in this position. Queen G5, king takes E4. Now, I personally think that jynxzi is simply a man of the people. I think he's simply a man of the content. He knows that he can't win the game that fast. If he won the game, this would have been a 3-minute video. Probably wouldn't have even been a video. White has two moves here that deliver checkmate. One of them is to push the pawn. Tricky move, but logical. And then you have to see that the queen protects this pawn and the king has no escape. The other one is bringing the bishop back to D3. Retreating moves and seeing that it's protected, not always the most, easy thing. I like his move, though. He plays rook D1, and now the black king really just has absolutely nowhere to go. I mean, it is made a handful of different ways. Not only is it made a handful of different ways, Ron here plays knight D4. That is actually one of the ways. Rook takes knight with the rook that you just moved is a mate. The other mate is still moving the bishop back. To my shock and my horror and my dismay, jynxzi here was like, oh, what an idiot. He put his knight here. He took it. He took it in 6 seconds. It's no longer mate. So it's no longer a checkmate. Still, you have F3 and you have bishop D3 ideas, but now you have to be a little bit more precise. Bishop G4, the move chosen here. There is now only one mate in one, which is queen E5. A little bit of a sandwich move. defended by the center pawn on d4. jynxzi plays here. I'm thinking like this is a wrap, right? I mean, he's up 20, like 14 points of material. But no, he really struggles here. You know, he keeps giving these checks. What's kind of insane in this position is that you can give a check with the knight. He ends up going here, and he totally freaks out. Ron figures out he could take the queen. Now it's anybody's game. jynxzi is still going for the king, which is really good. The king now runs here, and jynxzi has probably given like 12 checks already. In this position, had he just found one more check, he would have won the game. He would have won the game because bishop c4 is actually the only move here that is a check for white, and it just so happens to be a checkmate. Very reminiscent of the fried liver. So the fried liver opening is something that both of these gentlemen should consider adding to their toolbox when the king goes to g8. And the king is mated on that diagonal. And in this particular game, that's exactly the same situation. The king is, you know, boxed in by his other pieces, only one escape square. So bishop c4 here would have been mate. jynxzi goes bishop c7. And Ron, I told you, Ron literally does not know the rules. He takes on f2 and he goes check. And jynxzi takes. And I'm like, all right, well, jynxzi's back in business. He's obviously going to win the game. Now, it takes a little bit of time. Actually, I really like the technique that jynxzi chooses. He correctly evaluates that he can promote this pawn. That was very smart of him. But he is taking a little bit too much time. He does have one more mate in one. That's like the 5th or the 6th one. Rook to d4 there would have just been a mate. But he goes here. Totally dominant. Up a rook, up a knight. Obviously, like, crushing. Very good position. Up multiple pawns. Grabs another pawn. Panics here a little bit. But right here, he starts going, I'm not good enough to checkmate. So the fastest way to checkmate here would, of course, be to find a way to do a ladder mate with the two rooks. Push the king this way. Like rook e7, king f4, rook f8, king g5, and something like this. You know, rook h8. If king goes here, you know, you would have to find a mate like this. But the other thing you can do is to go promote a queen. It's much easier with a queen, but you do have to be a little bit careful not to stalemate the king. So ladder mate. Unfortunately, in the low time situation, jynxzi panics a little bit. He realizes a little bit too late that he can push the pawn, but in doing that, he loses both rooks because he tunnel visions and he doesn't have a lot of time remaining. And even here, the cleanest way would be to make a second queen and do a ladder mate. Always got to be thinking ladder mate, two queens, queen and rook, or cut the king off. And in this particular instance, you can actually just mate with the queen and the pawn. Of course, you can also, you know, bring the king and do it that way. This first game, though, ends in a draw. So jynxzi is completely winning. He manages to promote all his pawns, but he runs out of time. He runs out of time. So he promoted one pawn on d8, one pawn on c8, and then he promoted a pawn on g8 as well. So he ended up this game with 4 different queens, but he runs out of time. A draw is not good enough, so we got to see the boys run it back one time. Obviously, jynxzi, the more experienced player. Ron, scrappy, though, all the way to the end. Doesn't even lose a chess game, even though he doesn't fully know the rules. We'll see how quickly he can learn. They played a second game. This second game was crazy. Absolutely crazy. So I'm going to drink some hot water. You know, chess when you're a beginner is so wild and so random, but it gets better, you know, because it's all pattern recognition. It has nothing to do with intelligence. A lot of the comments that I received for covering these two games, because they're such big content creators, was like, oh my God, it was like the dumbest thing I ever saw. Like, yo, when all of you started chess, you were also not very good. When I started chess, I also wasn't very good. So no hate. Anyway, e3 from Ron. He takes the little double pawn approach. jynxzi takes a lot of space in the second game. You know, he's like, all right, enough is enough. I'm obviously the more experienced player. He has played a lot more games. H4, powerful opening from Ron, pushing some pawns. Black develops the knight to the middle. And now Ron, of course, you know, you don't want to move an H-pawn early. You want to take as much space in the center as you can. You guys should watch the slow run, whether it's the streamers or anybody else. Develop your bishops, develop your knights, go to the middle of the board. You don't want to do this. Knight on the outskirts of the board, not particularly good. Also moving a piece multiple times in the beginning. I like this move from jynxzi, pawn to e4. Of course, I would have preferred maybe developing a bishop or bringing another pawn. Again, moving the same piece multiple times, not always good. c4 here. c4. I cannot predict a single one of their moves, really. I legitimately think a lot of it is like clicking on a piece and just moving it. jynxzi captures. Ron here, of course, should get the knight out, but pawn takes, very reasonable move as well. But still, we need these pawns to move forward so they make space for the other pieces. I don't like jynxzi's next move, pawn to f4. It's just the loss of a pawn. It's not a terrible move, but again, he should get his bishops out and his other center pawn. Ron just takes. Ron's got a good eye for capturing. I can guarantee you that these two gentlemen have reached the position that has never been reached before in chess. Like, ever. There are more possible positions of chess than atoms in the universe. That's what they say. I haven't counted. Now black plays the powerful move h5 again. I don't like these flank pawn advances. You'll notice that the evaluation is now back to equal. It's because white can sneak in with a bishop here and force the king out. I don't really think that's going to happen. Ron now realizes the knight was poorly placed and brings it back to c3. But again, we're wasting time. The chess gods grant us knights and bishops and pawns. We want to use as much of them as possible. d4, knight is going to come out, bishop is going to come out, etc. Black goes d6. Not a bad move because we're trying to get the light squared bishop out. But dark squared bishop out directly to the middle of the board. Look how beautiful this bishop would be, covering the squares in the opponent's territory. Bishop c5, very nice move. Ron plays b4. b4 is simply a mistake. It loses a pawn. Black captures a pawn in one move. Apparently not even the best move according to the computer, but difficult to fully understand everything the computer wants. And now Ron attacks the knight. Good vision. jynxzi brings the knight back to safety. I'm telling you, good vision. Like every game in chess, you try to improve a little bit. You try to make less blunders than last time. Now this next move is a huge mistake. Terrible move. Bishop is worth 3 points. Just because it can capture something doesn't mean it should. Bishop takes d6 is a dreadful move, because you lose a 3-point piece for a 1-point piece, right? So we don't even consider a move like this. If I'm playing with white here, I'm still looking at bishop d3, bishop g6. I'm also looking at d4, probably taking a little bit of space, etc. Bishop d6 is no good. I like queen d6, bringing out your most powerful attacking piece, scoping out what you can capture. This is free. Ron here plays rook h3. Difficult to explain this one. I think it's just a matter of like legal moves. The bishop on the other side of the board can actually just straight up take that rook. Board is a big place. You got to think about the diagonal attackers. I can't explain jynxzi's next move. I think he just wanted to infiltrate with his queen, but he did just have a free pawn here. He plays queen a3. I think he was sort of mesmerized by the long queen move to the outskirts of the board, but the queen there is not putting pressure on anything because everything in white's position is protected. But to be honest with you, at this level, as long as they're not blundering anything in one move, I'm totally okay with it. White plays knight a4 for a second time. Maybe the second time we go out to the outskirts of the board, it will be better. But again, we haven't gotten all the pieces out. We got to get all the pieces out. That's why we were granted them in the beginning of the game. Queen b4. I'm a little bit concerned here that jynxzi's going to end up losing his queen. Last game, he had the queen out. He clearly understands that the best way to attack a king is with the queen. It is the most powerful piece, but on her own, the queen is very vulnerable to getting captured. Everything is protected in the position. White goes a3, attacking the queen. Fantastic move. Everything is protected. And jynxzi tunnel visions and plays queen takes c4. And in one move, the eval bar trampolines upward because you have lost a queen for a pawn. Not a knight. Not anything. Queen takes c4. Insane. Ronaldo, who has never played chess before making his chess.com account, is straight up about to pull off the impossible. jynxzi has played chess since 2020. Sporadically. Not super consistently. Obviously still a beginner, but this is insane. This man is about to pull off winning a chess game. It's only his second game ever. But he misses the queen. He misses the queen. He pushes the pawn. He's forgetting about his home square pieces. And he doesn't see that the queen is hanging. But jynxzi takes the knight. And this time, Ronaldo activates the part of the brain that's like, wait a minute, I also have a queen. Queen a4. jynxzi's down a queen, and it's a really big problem because in the last game, when he lost his queen, he was still completely winning. Now he's not. Now, white should go and trade all of black's pieces off the board, leaving just the queen to fight against the rest of these pieces. King f7. So bishop c4. You go after the king here. You try to bring the rook to the middle. You try to bring the knight. White plays bishop c4 check. Fantastic move. jynxzi's king is running around in the middle of the board now. White plays knight e2. Insane. Ronaldo is absolutely clutching up. He brings out the bishop and the knight. That's going to be the only way to win here. You got to get the knight into the game. There's no other way. You got to get the rook to attack the king. You got to get the queen to attack the king, but you have to do it careful, right? jynxzi plays g6. g6 is a very clever little move. He sets up a trap. If pawn takes pawn, bishop takes h3. No way, right? I mean, that would be really crazy if jynxzi catches Ron, because Ron likes to capture pieces. He's a beginner. He's like, oh, g6. I mean, every time this guy gives me something, it's free. He takes, and boom. jynxzi, out of nowhere, from the top row, grabs the rook on the other side of the board. Now it's game on, because now white lost a full rook. That's a really big deal in chess. And like I said, I'm sick, so I apologize. My voice sounds croaky. In chess, the two most important things are material and king safety. And right now, even though black got 5 points of material back, and technically black is up a point, right here, you could see it. Black's king is terrible, and that's a really big problem. Now, excellent board vision here from Ron, who plays knight to g1, attacking the bishop on h3. The bishop goes here, and now just an absolutely, utterly insane sequence of moves occurs. Ron decides that his queen has had a good run and takes the knight on c6. That just can't work. I mean, you cannot just take pieces. You got to see if they are protected, and they are protected. But jynxzi goes bishop takes f3. He allows not just the queen to take the knight, he allows the queen to be in the territory of the king. Like, the game is over. Queen e6 check, defended by the bishop. Take a knight, fork, take the rook, take the bishop. You're about to win like 15 points of material, and black is just going to be dead lost. But after bishop takes f3, Ronaldo, seeing as though he just took one horse, continues with the beginner logic. Let me take another horse. He takes another horse. So the queen has now captured 2 horses. jynxzi takes, and knight f3. So Ron gets a knight, and a bishop. He got 3 pieces off the board for the queen, but he is now losing. He is losing because he lost the rook. Had he kept that rook on the board, he would be winning. But right now he has a rook, a bishop, and a knight versus rook, bishop, and rook. Black is better. Black has more material, more powerful material. Rook e8 check. King walks out to f2. Now, what's going to happen when you put 2 100-rated players into an endgame with a minute and 20, minute and 30 on the clock? It's going to be insane. This game is going to have an absolutely ridiculous finish. Black plays rook h6, looking to win the pawn. Ron plays knight e5. Knight e5 is a good move. It defends the pawn on g6. But it hangs this knight twice, so it's not the best move. Actually, it really only hangs it once. Because if king takes e5, rook e1 would skewer the king to the rook, which obviously was seen. Instead of that, jynxzi goes here and completely allows takes. Now we have an opposite colored bishop endgame. Opposite colored bishop endgames are very frequently draws. But with rooks on the board, black is playing for a win. King g3, powerful move. Now jynxzi here knows that in the endgame, you have to activate rooks in their most powerful form. And the way you activate a rook in the most powerful form, especially in the endgame, is to put the rook on the second rank of the opponent, attacking the pawn. But Ron spots that the bishop can go back. This is absolute cinema. jynxzi only has a bishop and 4 pawns. There is absolutely no way he's going to win this game. It's just not possible. He plays c5. Unfortunately, Ron is too excited. He just loves to take stuff, and he forgets that he has a rook. So he takes this pawn. That's not a good move, because he just loses his bishop. But he does get some of jynxzi's remaining material out of the way. Now, if he plays rook f1, puts these pawns on light squares, the dark squared bishop of black is never going to take the pawns. The rook, meanwhile, will go eat everything. I am running out of vocal cord capacity. We are really winding it down here. The medication is wearing off. Unfortunately, Ron plays d4 and loses another one of his pawns. So he also only has 3 pieces remaining, but he has a time advantage. Now he plays rook a2, d3, a4, b6. If rook d2, he's going to win this pawn, and then he's going to go and win these 2 pawns. He plays a5. So he trades off his pawn, and now he can still maybe win, but probably not. He needed to preserve some of the pawns. Black can play bishop b4 and d2 here. And now the game is just a draw because white will be forced to give up the rook for this pawn, probably lose the bishop, bring the king over here, and 2 pawns will not promote against the king in the corner. a4 is not a good move, though, because now you can just take it. King f5, a3. Disaster strikes. Ronaldo realizes now that he can take the pawn, but he realizes too late. He realizes at the worst possible moment. He plays rook takes a3. And now he's losing. Because the bishop can take, and then you promote. But jynxzi plays d2. So now it is still anybody's game. He does not take the rook. This is insanity. Rook a1 back. Bishop b4. Defending the pawn. a5's coming, but it's still a draw. Black can set up these 2 pieces to defend each other, and white is never going to break through. The only way you win is if black takes this pawn, and then you can deliver a mate on the outskirts of the board like this. That would be crazy. Rook takes a7 is bananas because it's a miracle move. It's a literal miracle move. Rook a7 is just a move that you play as a beginner because you can take a pawn. But you forgot that there's a queen. You forgot that the guy can queen. But it's not the case. If you queen, it's mate. Ronaldo, who has literally never played chess before these games, this is his 2nd chess game ever, is about to beat jynxzi. Rook h7 is mate on the board. He doesn't have a capture. The most forcing move that he has is a check. I am losing my voice doing this commentary. Rook h7. But he goes here. And now, queen d5. Here. No, he doesn't take the rook. King goes here. He gives a check. He gives a check. jynxzi now has 11 seconds to win this game. jynxzi can win, lose, or draw this game. He can draw this game by taking the rook. If he takes the rook, but then he runs out of time, it's a draw. Because white does not have sufficient checkmating material. But if you are late in a game like this, and you're not, you don't think you can checkmate, you can fork the king and the rook and win the rook. Or you can try to go for mate. If you're trying to survive mate, you got to run out this way, not to the corner, because now the bishop can help, the queen can help, the king can come help. He goes check. Here, king h6. So this is mate. jynxzi has 4 seconds. The best move here to be resilient would be to give him a check. Give him a couple of checks. If you check black a few times here, Ronaldo will literally win this game. This game comes down to like 3 moves. Ronaldo would have won his first chess game, having learned the rules in the previous game. This would have been nuts. But he goes here, which is not that bad of a move because you cannot move the queen now. You take, but you have 2.7 seconds to deliver mate in this position. King h8. This is mate, of course. But jynxzi goes here. He has 2.1 seconds now to find mate. He does. With 0.6 seconds remaining, jynxzi clutches up in one of the most insane, high-profile beginner games of chess that the internet has ever seen. This game had like 100,000 live viewers. This game had more viewers than elite chess competition like the Candidates sometimes has. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I think both these guys have potential. They are gamers. They play a lot of different games. Chess is all about pattern recognition. This one was wild. This was a wild game, and it is insane Ronaldo almost won, despite not having played chess before. So shout out to these 2 guys putting themselves out there. Chess is one of these games where the audience sits there and goes, "You're so stupid. You're so stupid." So I appreciate it. Everybody should play chess. I'm going to go rest my voice. Get out of here.